All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily World, talking about preparations for elections. We're joined now by Hafsatu Shinkafi, founder and executive director of I Am Change organization. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, you had an event yesterday about elections, trying to get across to stakeholders looking ahead for this particular election. So tell us, what is your in terms of what's your key focus this time for the elections?
Our key focus for the elections, for the 2023 elections, is to have a stable elections, especially post-election stability. That is like the program we had yesterday. The theme and title of the program is Citizens Awareness and the role of stakeholders in the stability, in the post-election stability. So that's one of our key focus, and of course, pre-elections too, and the process itself.
But you seem, are you more interested in post-elections as opposed to pre?
Honestly, we're interested in the whole process, but you know, there's some projections, some scary projections about the post-election stability. So we try to raise awareness on that to voters and the stakeholders, you know, like media, the politicians, security, structures, you know, just to say this is how things should go, and you know, and to avoid incidences like, for instance, the U.S. incident or the Brazilian incident, where politicians have like a heated rhetoric and so on. So
what have you heard that you think that people need to be wary of?
An example is, you know, candidates coming out or parties just outrightly claiming to be the winners even before the elections, things like that. So, I mean, the winner, nobody knows the winner, right? So you see on social media, which is obviously a very heated space, you'd find like supporters already claiming victory and things like that, and different threats and so on, which is, it's normal in politics, but we just have to put out the awareness that, you know, you have to accept results and not cause trouble or make threats. Absolutely.
There are those who think that, you know, and only recently senior advocates of Nigeria started raising certain issues with the Constitution and in terms of the declaration of, you know, what will qualify a presidential candidate to have won an election. We used to think we knew it, but it looks like in this election, you know, they're asking for clarification. Is it something that you have heard as well? I mean, in your own circles, and is it something that you think needs urgent clarification?
Well, I feel like the electoral process is quite clear, but yes, I mean, it's a fairly new democracy, and we need as much clarification as as is required by the citizens. I mean, like I said, just about how many electoral cycles. It's fairly new, so definitely more education, which is what we're trying to do as an organization and our partners, continuous education and raising of awareness in terms of these processes and practices. So definitely, I feel like it needs.
How is that sort of education? Because before now, we used to think that, you know, what a winner needed was majority votes and 25% of the vote in 2/3 of the federation, including the FCT. That was what we were told. I mean, that's what the Constitution says. But looks like there is now a need to clarify, because some people say that this elections look like they're going to be very different. This is more than a two-horse race. They are saying more than, you know, two major contenders on the front run. How does that change the dynamics of the elections with regards to previous elections, in your own estimation?
Right. Well, if there's any shortage in that count and what you just mentioned, those laws and the metrics for winning the elections, then definitely we would have to, INEC would have to come in and obviously I don't want to mention what could happen, but that's for INEC to say. Definitely this for INEC to clarify.
And they'll have to start saying it early enough, shouldn't they?
Definitely, I think so. I think they should. And we've seen a commissioner made some statements which kind of backfired a little bit. And it's scary for us as citizens and people to hear this type of things like projections on reruns or issues like that. You know, it's quite disappointing. So we just have to cross that bridge when we get there, I think. For now, we have to just go out and vote. And hopefully the votes will be enough to avoid any sort of reruns or
You really think that we should avoid a rerun? I mean, a rerun could happen without any disruption. It could happen as a result of how the votes are counted. For instance, if two candidates or more satisfy, I mean, I want to imagine two candidates, satisfy what we think the constitutional requirements are, then they will have to go into a runoff to, you know, get a simple majority. That's what will necessitate that. Do you think that that could be a very tricky scenario for us to navigate?
I think so. I think so. That's why I'm saying if enough voters go out there and one candidate comes out with the majority vote, then there would be no need to have a rerun in that case. So we hope that there will be enough voters out there and to put on a majority candidate to win so that we avoid any of that. And if we do have the scenario that you mentioned now, then I hope INEC has put in place the measures to have one candidate come out on top.
Mm. Are you following the collection of voter cards? You've been encouraging people to go out to vote. The deadline is this weekend, January 29. What exactly is that? I don't know if you've been monitoring, but if you have, how would you assess how INEC has been distributing the permanent voter cards?
Right. So I believe that the extension was it's definitely a commendable effort by INEC, and I would say there's still room for improvement in terms of the distribution, but I believe from the numbers and statistics, there's been some improvement from the last time, as the last elections, and throughout there's been continuous voters card registration and all those types of things. So I would say that there's an improvement, but still room for more improvement.
In what areas are you looking to see this improvement?
In what areas? For example, the data collection. There's a lot of duplicity, I understand. So, for example, like you would go and you lose your voter's card, you register again, and it's just cancelled. That you just have a cancellation, then you can't find your voter's card at polling units and stuff like that. So.
Do you think Nigerians are getting enough information, voter education messages from officials of INEC across board?
Yes, I believe that INEC is. You commend INEC for the efforts that they're putting out there. To be honest, and you know, it's such a large country. Like, I'm not here to defend INEC or anything, but I feel like we should give. We should comment when there is need. And for example, on the technological front of things, there's been an improvement from the card reader to the BVAS. Well, we're yet to see how that goes. But in terms of information, I think that they have all the digital platforms for young people, the largest demographic and largest number of potential voters in the country. So all this information is out there. And in terms of spreading and being on platforms like yours, I believe that they've done some of that as well.
So how much, what kind of impact would you say you've seen or gotten or like to see with I Am Change organizations' advocacy for these elections?
The impacts that I would like to see? Mm-hmm. I would like...
What's your target?
Our target, right, is just mainly the awareness to, you know, make citizens aware of how the electoral process is, and also like in terms of behavior as well, like conduct, basically, just the voters' conduct when voting, after your, and also, you know, for the post-elections, like I said, stability, having stability for post-elections.
So on election day, I mean, the dynamics are usually different. So do you think that we have any reason to be worried whatsoever on what happens on that day? For instance, I mean, lots of people, even INEC themselves, like to address what they refer to as the menace of vote buying, how people conduct themselves. If an electoral offense is committed, who picks up what? These are all factors that will determine what happens on the day.
Absolutely, and that's where the stakeholders coming. Like I said, at the program yesterday, we had the security, media, the politicians were represented as well as major stakeholders. And what you just said, it really, it would have to be managed by the security and politicians, holding them accountable for such conduct and, you know, malpractices. So the security should have a framework where, you know, when you're caught with evidence and proof that you're vote buying or any sort of illegal activity, that you're held accountable and have
So clearly,
measures.
IMChange reaches out to security agencies as well. Do you?
Well,
In
IMChange
terms of your advocacy?
is not an electoral observer or any.
Yeah, we know. But
Right.
in terms of advocacy, do you perchance reach out to them because they have a huge role to play too?
They do, and like I said, we include them. We include them, and it's about an 8-year-old organization. So as far as reaching out to security, I mean, hopefully we'll get there and like hold them by their, you know.
So you want to take it one step at a time?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Kaide, Buki, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chamberlain. Good morning, Ms. Hafsatu. I'd like to also follow up on Malque's concern about the constitutional requirement and to find out what your findings are from your advocacy, specifically as it has to do with the possibility of no clear winner at the first run of the exercise. You know, unlike other elections, it appears now that in the presidential elections for this year, we have about 4 front runners. Are you getting a sense of wariness, you know, from voters about the concern of going into another round of election, which could be taxing, you know, because of real concerns about security and all of that? And what counsel have you been offering or will you offer through this medium should a rerun be inevitable?
Right, so there's so much talk about a rerun, and like I just said to Chamberlain right now, there's no certainty that there will be a rerun, and I really don't know how much evidence or proof there is to this this projection of a rerun. So therefore, as an organization, and you know, the best outcome would be to have a majority winner, and hopefully we would have that. And the issue of reruns, I think, is heating up the polity a little bit. So I really don't want to dwell so much on that. But I mean, if that happens, like I said, I really hope that I'm sure that INEC will have frameworks to handle that situation. But as a advocate for voting and the electoral process, we would hope that that situation will not happen. And also, like I said, I really don't know where the strong projection for reruns are coming from. Is it from the political side? Is there an agenda or what? I'm not sure. I can't speak on reruns, to be honest. I don't want that to happen.
Well, I'm sure the candidates also do not hope for a rerun. Let's talk about another part of the conversation as far as voting is concerned. I imagine that voters would need to know about, you know, overvoting. In the past Electoral Act, overvoting was a difference between the number of registered voters. When there were more voters than the number of registered voters. I hope I'm getting that correctly. But this time around, it's a comparison between the number of registered voters. So I'm wondering what it would, the possibility of overvoting because of the use of BVAS, which would check out the bimodal details of all voters. How significant is it for voters to know about overvoting, and how can it be avoided?
It's very significant for the voters to know, because it can be avoided by the registry. I believe that there's a set out number for each polling unit. And if you follow up, like we've been advocating for, and every democratic or electoral civil society focused body advocates for following your vote, ensuring that your vote counts, and knowing these type of details like the number of registries at each polling unit and all of that. So that is how you would ensure that there's no overvoting or any of those practices.
All right. You talked about the post-election stability, and I'd like to focus on that one. I mean, yes, there might be projections here and there. You'd expect that to happen, really, because it looks like we're on the verge of something quite different from what we've seen in the past. But when a winner emerges, I mean, that's the goal of elections, right? There's been this talk about the possibility of a unity government, because it's been described as a 4-horse race. Well, a lot of candidates will say it's an 18-horse race, but with the polls, it's been described as a 4-horse race. So is that something that you are maybe suggesting as well, perhaps to calm the nerves, to reduce the bad blood? Because it looks like all of the candidates and their supporters want to win. It's either a win or nothing else. So is that a possibility also to reduce post-election tension? And how much should we be also talking about a possible unity government? So at least perhaps there can be some sort of representation for all of the different candidates or horses in this case.
Oh, that's a very interesting and brilliant question. Thank you. So as far as the democratic system, having a coalition government would be a great development for our democracy. And if the parties do agree to come together, and if in that situation, when we have sort of a tie or something like that in the elections, I think that would be a very good thing for our democratic system, and it will definitely make it grow and develop our democratic system. So, and then I believe that it will bring together the people and unite somewhat a divisive electoral cycle, electoral season that we're seeing. So if that happens, and the politicians and these leaders think that that might be a solution, and supporters also would see that as something that would be useful, I believe that it would be good for us. Yes.
Right, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I know you're from a political family, so to speak. I mean, a lot of people might know your late father, the weight he pulled politically, at least in the Third Republic, the role he's played in government and all. And I mean, we've been at this for quite some time. Politics, people going to the polls, listening to promises and, voting for their leaders. And eventually things don't quite turn out the way they want it to turn. And I wonder for you, maybe because you have at least some sort of first-hand view of politics, maybe by association and all of that, is there really a reason as to why we keep going around in circles? The promises are made, but the politicians or the political leaders never really deliver on what is, I mean, minimum, really, what the people expect. Is there really a challenge here that you have identified and you're hoping that we can solve this time around?
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of my family and my great father that is late now, I've asked him a similar question before, and I said, what is the issue? Why is it that things are so difficult and we fail to get things right? And the simple question, a very simple and short answer that he gave was that, is the lack of democratic principles. Is as easy as that. So once we do follow the right principles, I believe that things would be better. Yes, and these are very universal principles in democracy. I feel like it's a very straightforward system, very simple. Simplicity is sorry to use this, but it's magical to use such a word. But that's the beauty of democracy. It's very simple and straightforward. And once you follow those principles, and fundamentals of democracy, I believe that things will go right.
So 8 years ago, what made you start this?
Right, it's just an inherent love and patriotism, I guess, that I have in me for the country. And also I came back after my university, which I did abroad, and then that was 2010. And to be honest, I was shocked by the by the reality that I met on ground. It was shocking. I believe that I was in some kind of bubble before, but after coming back, doing my NYSC, being very engaged in the current and public affairs, I just thought I had to
What were those
do
realities?
something. Well, it's just, I really don't want to be politically incorrect, but at the time, there was a lot of frustration, you know. Obviously, the major thing we have is this, you know, the system itself, the shortcomings of the system. That's our, whether it's the political system or the ruling system, you know. Also, in terms of the public and the society itself, you know, I'm from Zamfara and Sokoto State, and also just the poverty. And at the time, I mean, the insecurity issues had not even fully started. I mean, they were going on in full, but we were not aware of them publicly. But it started quite a long time ago. So, but just the poverty is just so alarming, and in terms of quality of leadership. So I just wanted to spread awareness on that and hopefully improve on it, yes.
So do you sometimes feel like you're making some impact? I mean, with the work that you're doing?
Yes, I believe so. I believe we're making an impact. Like in 2018, we had a leadership and mentoring program in Sokoto State through a grant that was achieved. And out of that program, there are about 3 beneficiaries that have gone on to run for party youth leadership, party positions, like youth leadership positions in parties. They've been active in the society. So I believe that that is one of the major success that I would claim. And apart from that as well, we do a lot of skills acquisitions, and we do a lot of educating. I believe that that's definitely is bound to help in making positive changes.
So that means I Am Change is here in the long run.
Absolutely. I hope so, definitely.
All right. So we hope to see a lot of things change, so that at least the relationships, the experiences of Nigerians, young people, women, children, everyone will be a lot better moving forward. So, which is part of why you started this in the first place.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for coming on. Hafsatu Shinkafi, founder and executive director, I Am Change organization. All the best in your
Thank you so much. Thank you.